All right, let's just jump right into this. I only got about an hour or so because, well, it's a holiday and other reasons. But I got to tell you, I've been wanting to do this stream for quite some time, even though it's going to be, got some alcohol coming in. Look at this, we're celebrating.
Is an adult beverage okay on this show, Steve?
Oh, it is not only okay, it is preferred. Actually, sometimes it's mandatory.
Very good.
Yeah, what are you drinking? What is that?
It's an Irish whiskey from Belfast called Gelston's.
Damn, breaking out the good stuff. I'm honored. Well, let's let's tell people what we're here for first, because again, I was wanting to do this stream for a while, but I gotta tell you, this is one subject that I just do not know F all about. I am so confused. I've been reading stuff. Okay, let me just kind of backpedal for a second. So I got John Hamill here, who has been literally blind carbon copying me on communications with many of the former and current people with that affiliated with the organization Atheist Alliance International. Now, if you guys remember way back when, we had some discussions about Atheist Alliance International when one of the, I think he was the president, Michael Sherlock, was unfairly targeted over a word by Caitlin Chloe, who used to be part of the Non Sequitur show. So I kind of do know a little bit about the organization, but I have really no idea what the hell happened to them. I know basically there's a hostile takeover, there was a cabal, there was some falsifications of this and that, and I know that John Richards, who is one of the most dishonest atheists I've ever had the displeasure of running into, he is affiliated with them, but in more of a tangential sense. So I brought John Hamill, to kind of explain to us what the hell was going on with Atheist Alliance International, without going down too many rabbit holes, because it is seriously mind-bogglingly confusing. But I'm going to turn it over to you, and you got to basically explain to people what the hell AAI was, and in a nutshell, if you can, as concisely as possible, what the hell is going on with them, or did. Anyways, we have Hereticals for $5 Australian. Good morning, Steve. Have a drink on me. Oh, dude, I tell you what, Chris, thank you. I literally tonight, I think after this episode, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some beer so we can watch fireworks tonight. I told Kano, hey, you want to watch fireworks tonight and maybe go outside and have like a roommate beer night? She's like, hells yeah. Like, yeah, it's alcohol.
That's fun.
Yeah, I have to ask her. So anyways, I am actually going to do that tonight. And so Kano, look at me. I'm going to do that tonight, okay? Okay, she says thank you. All right, so let's jump into this. So, John, welcome, by the way.
Thank you, Steve. I'm very good, and I'll keep the background story to AAI short. I don't want to keep you from your beer and fireworks.
Do it. All right, lead us through this. Explain to us what the hell's up with all this shit.
Okay, so I'm going to assume to begin with that most of your audience, Steve, will be familiar with the name Madeleine Murray O'Hair, who was the founder of American Atheists, and back then that was the most influential group of organized atheists in the world. She later handed over to her son, and there was a lot of drama around that organization that we don't need to go into, but for very good reasons. It was a top-down organization. So Madeleine Murray O'Hair and her son and her immediate family ran the whole thing centrally. And there were lots of chapters around the place who became rather disaffected about this. So they started Atheist Alliance International as a democratic alliance of atheist groups from around the world.
And I do remember that. And I remember Madeleine O'Hair. And I remember, and you know what's funny is a lot of atheists that are this, they always think like, some of them actually say, what is there to know about atheism? It's just a lack of belief. Well, they're wrong about that. But atheism has a long, rich, and vastly diverse history that they know nothing about. And they don't know anything about Madeleine O'Hair. And agree with her or disagree with her, she was extremely influential in promoting atheism. Absolutely. Probably bar none, one of the most foremost, I would say, what was she, a pundit or advocate? Or
she was the Richard Dawkins of atheism before there was a Richard Dawkins.
Exactly.
She was the person who was always on TV.
Exactly. And so a lot of people don't even know that. So when they say they know about atheism, it's like really. But anyways, April Van Ryan for 20 Canadian says, have a few. Thank you, April. We plan to. I we can drink 2 beers each now. Yay!
It's superb.
She getting so drunk tonight. It's ridiculous. All right. So yeah. So that's exactly what I remember as well. So
yes.
Continue.
And the relevance of it being a democratic and international organization, very much a bottom up alliance of groups from literally dozens of countries around the world, is that this allowed AAI to gain special consultative status at the United Nations and participatory status at the Council of Europe. So I can give you a very quick example of why that's relevant, Steve.
Sure,
So
absolutely. Yeah, I know they had influence, and I know that
yes,
there are very few
so
atheist organizations have any influence politically like that.
well, this is exactly the point. So, and lots of countries, kind of an uppity atheist sometimes gets on the radio or on the TV and says something controversial, and very often nobody in government takes notice. But what Atheist Alliance International was able to do is turn up at meetings of the United Nations when different countries were getting interrogated about their human rights record by the United Nations Human Rights Committee. One example was when Ireland was being interrogated at the United Nations. Atheist Ireland went along as a member of this AAI alliance of international groups, and they were able to embarrass the Irish government in front of all of their peers from all of the other countries around the world. All of the officials from our Department of Justice turned up to defend their record. The Minister for Justice turned up, and they were kind of berated in front of everyone about their blasphemy law that we had in Ireland at the time. And within 12 months of that meeting, Ireland announced a date for a referendum, and we removed blasphemy from the Irish constitution. So I think most people will understand that whereas a lot of government ministers don't really care if the angry atheist goes on radio and says something controversial, but if the entire government delegation is humiliated in front of their peers at the United Nations, they absolutely do care about that. So that kind of effective activism is really what Atheist Alliance International was all about before it was taken over by a bunch of really dishonest people, as you've referred to.
And by the way, I would have stood by that. Okay, look, I there's no love lost between me and most atheist organizations. I would just go on record to say, yes, I used to watch the AXP early on. It has become trash. It has become one of the most dogmatic, least philosophical programs I've ever seen in my life. It is all about like Matt Dillahunty's ego. It's not about atheism. It hasn't been about atheism for a very long time. Atheist Republic is a cesspool of memes and basically people that are dumber than a rock because they think rocks are atheist. I mean, the only one that I associate with is Atheists for Liberty because I like what they promote, which is secularism, right? The separation of church and state. That's their main core, is to make sure that religion is not integrated into secular society, that government is not, regulating things from a Christian point of view, or that, teach the controversy of Christianity, or evolution and creationism. That's kind of nonsense. And that's what I stand for. So I'm on board with that. As far as like the atrocities committed in other countries, I would have absolutely been on board with an atheist organization wanting to get rid of blasphemy laws, wanting to get rid of the death penalty for people who claim there are no gods, right? Because atheism is a death penalty and death sentence in certain states. Yes. And so I would have absolutely been in agreement with those kind of organizations. Yes, humanitarian, absolutely.
That sounds good. And unfortunately, what happened then was when a bunch of particularly dishonest people took over on the board. They were co-opted onto the board rather than being elected. They arranged a secret meeting from which they excluded the majority of member groups from around the world. And at this meeting, they changed the bylaws without a quorum, without following any of the rules. But they changed the rules of the organization so that they would no longer have to report financial accounts. They would no longer have to have an AGM and be accountable to the members. They would no longer have to be elected by the members. They gave themselves the power to appoint their successors, to appoint new directors. They gave themselves the power to change the bylaws on a whim. And all of this is documented. So there's lots of articles out there. If anyone wants to go through the details and look at the Wayback Machine, you can look at what the bylaws were originally. how they were constructed as this democratic alliance of atheist groups from dozens of countries around the world. And you can look at how exactly it was hijacked by John Richards and a few of his fellow travelers. And I think that's where you kind of started participating in several Twitter conversations, Steve, when John Richards was lying his ass off about why he did that.
John Richards lies? Stop it. That's crazy talk. Yeah, I already know he's dishonest. It's scary because he's one of those people that I just don't know if he's stupid and dishonest or just dishonest. But I've realized now that I think
they're not mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive. I think he is absolutely stupid. He knows nothing about atheism or philosophy, and yet he promotes himself as somebody who puts things out as, like these facts that are just completely wrong. And everybody and their brother corrects him, and yet he doesn't seem to care. He's literally like a creationist of atheism. He's that damn stupid. But he's also dishonest because you can ask him simple questions and he'll just obfuscate. He will not answer simple questions. I've seen you do it. I've seen you ask him very simple questions. He will not answer them.
Yep, that's right. Well, I can give you a good example. Since you know something about non sequiturs, Steve, I had some of these people on our podcast recently to ask them a few questions about this. They lied their ass off, and myself and Seamus were able to provide documents as evidence that they were lying their ass off. And they wrote an article in response to that, which said, honestly, this was the argument. They said, I wasn't lying because I went on the podcast and I found John drinking and swearing. And in fairness, I was drinking some Guinness at the time. In fairness, I did call him a dick when he was lying to my face. That's true. But speaking of non sequiturs, Steve, I don't think it means he wasn't lying if I happened to be drinking and swearing at the time.
I agree. Because I don't think he even knows how to tell the truth at this point. But he wasn't even involved that much with AA. But okay, so first, because I've tried to read some of the things that you've been written about the people that were on the board. How did that all get usurped? How do you all of a sudden change the bylaws? Because this is incorporated. I mean, they had a 501c3, right?
That's right. Well, that status has now been revoked where they're registered where you are in the state of California. So you can go to the state of California website for charities and nonprofits. They have a little search tool there where you can look them all up. You type in Atheist Alliance International and you'll see that their status has been revoked. And that status has been revoked because they haven't been filing annual accounts. They haven't been filing annual accounts because they changed the bylaws to say they don't have to. And it basically means the people who fund the organization don't know how their money is being spent.
That's dirty.
Yeah, I have to say, I've no evidence that anything untoward is going on. So they have intermittently filed some documents with the IRS. The last one shows they take in about $75,000 a year. I don't know how they spend $75,000 a year. Nobody knows how they spend $75,000 a year because they won't publish financial accounts anymore. I can't tell you that there's anything untoward going on, but I mean that's the whole reason why people are required to publish accounts, so you don't have to guess about these things.
Well, yeah, as I understand it, I don't know if they're actually obligated to publish, but when you have in your charter that you're going to have something open about your revenue stream and where it goes, and then you change it, that's what I would consider to be pretty questionable.
Yeah, and then you ask John Richards, well, why did you change the bylaws to remove the requirement for publishing annual accounts? And he'll say, well, when we took over, the website had lots of broken links and you couldn't read the website on a mobile device. People will be listening to this thinking, what the fuck is that fat Irish guy talking about? But I shit you not, these are people on the board of an international organization with a special consultative status at the United Nations. And if you ask them, why did you change the bylaws to remove the requirement to publish accounts, to remove AGMs, to remove the ability of the members to pass motions? They will tell you, well, when we took over, the organization was a mess and the website couldn't be viewed with mobile devices and it had broken links on it. So this was an emergency and we had to do something. And that's why they made all of those changes to the bylaws. I mean, it's just utterly absurd to say it out loud, but that's the excuse you'll get.
Okay, so Chris says a lot of organizations weren't able to operate in a normal fashion during COFEFE, and the government law passed to support this due to being unable to actually meet. When did this happen?
So the bylaws were changed in 2018. That was before the pandemic. But John Richards and his fellow travelers were co-opted onto the board in 2017. So the bylaws at that point had a provision for, if a number of directors became ill or had to resign for whatever reason, there was a mechanism to co-opt a director onto the board instead of the usual process, which is to have them elected. I should say I know this because I used to be the secretary of the organization. So I was elected onto the board. And what the bylaws say is you can co-opt someone, but that person has to be elected by the end of that calendar year or else they must resign. If anyone's interested, I can send them the copy of the bylaws that say this, but John Richards and his buddies were supposed to be elected by the end of 2017 or else they had to resign, but they decided not to hold that election. And then what happened in 2018 was a bunch of the members decided, well, there's no AGM to elect directors, so there's no board, so we better think of a way to rescue this organization. And the members at that stage included Freedom from Religion Foundation. I think a lot of people will know Annie Laurie Gaylor and Dan Barker as impressive people who don't mess around and are, they're not going to go off chasing down weird rabbit holes. So Annie Laurie Gaylor, Dan Barker, and Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland were together looking at a democratic way to reconstitute the organization in 2018. And while they were doing that, John Richards, Howard Berman, Gail Miller, and a handful of others arranged a meeting. At that time, there was, I think, around 36 members. A member would be a national affiliate group from around the world. So FFRF was one member, Atheist Ireland was another, and there were about 36 members. So, John Richards and his buddies arranged a meeting at which only one member attended. You have the minutes from that meeting, Steve, so you know I'm not making this up.
No, I have a whole bunch of stuff you sent me. I don't have it at my fingertips, but yes, you did send me a lot of stuff.
Yes. So at that meeting, with only one member in attendance, at which they did not inform all of the members, and this is all totally against the bylaws. They convened this meeting. They changed all the bylaws to say, we're not having any more AGMs. We're not listening to the members anymore. We're not, we don't care about the motions that the members might pass. We're not publishing any more financial accounts. This organization is ours. We have the passwords to the online accounts. We have the PayPal account. We have the bank account. End of story.
Yeah, it's coup.
Yes, a heist, exactly that.
Yeah, I would put that as a coup. But Richards, I mean, he wasn't like the mastermind of this one. He's not smart enough to put anything like that off. It seems like he more is like the mouthpiece of it. Like, but who was actually behind this? Because originally Michael Sherlock was, the head of all this. And again, he had that whole bullshit against him with that one
Yes.
one word that for some reason that one of the former co-hosts of Non Sequitur show decided to make more important than people's lives over in other countries, dealing with things like blasphemy and death. Big deal about those things, obviously, I guess, to her. But she thought it was more important that he doesn't use the word retarded, even though retarded has a very specific usage in which he used it properly, which had nothing to do with mental as far as autistic or anything like that, which again, I absolutely
used it as a synonym for slowed down or held back.
Correct. Because if you say the water flow was retarded, that just means it was restricted. That's a very common thing. You retard the water flow. But I don't think that retard and things like autism should be used in conjunction. Absolutely not. But that's not how we used them. And so for her to even, and even if they did, even if they started using, retard in a pejorative, there are ways of going after that, right? Because people do use words, but that's not anything that he did, and she made such a freaking big deal about it, taking away from any kind of actual good that Sherlock was doing.
Yeah, the statement that AAI put out from their disciplinary committee accepted that he used it as a synonym for held back or slowed down, and they said that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you use the word. Using the word is unacceptable because
which is bullshit.
People are going to be, yes, it's total bullshit. I'll tell you how much bullshit it is. I complained about it to Lawrence Krauss, who was then on the advisory council of AAI, and the statement put out by the disciplinary committee said, "This is our rule. This rule will apply to everyone in AAI. There are no exceptions." And that statement is still up on their website. You can go and look at it. It says this applies to everyone in AAI. There are no exceptions. And I tried to explain to Lawrence Krauss why this was a bad idea, and he called me retarded.
Yeah, well, that would have been my response too. Actually, I mean, I say the same thing. I'm like, damn, that's retarded. Yeah, I mean, there are. I'm sorry, but words have usages, and I'm not going to have anybody tell me how I can and cannot use certain words. Nobody's ever going to be able to do that. Matter of fact, there's a thing that came out. I don't know if you remember it, and I know we're going to go down rabbit holes, but god damn, it's so hard not to. But you remember, I think it was, somebody could tell me the organization, but they were like, okay, here's a list of prohibited words we're no longer going to be using, and it was like master, slave, and I'm like, what? I'm like, look, if anybody who knows anything about things like circuit breakers and relays, these are very common terms. Master, slave. BTSM has master, slave. It has absolutely no racial overtones whatsoever. By the way, blacks were not the only ones that had slavery. I'm Jewish. My people, they were slaves too for a while there. So when you say something like master, slave in the reference of electronics, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything to do with bigotry, racism, or anything like that. And yet they're saying we cannot use words like this. Oh no, this is what words are, well established in the literature, so you know what the fuck you're talking about. If I tell somebody, hey, I want you to go tag out the master relay so I don't fucking get electrocuted, I want to make sure they know which one to tag out. I'd be damned about proper fucking improper usage of terms.
The estate agents all had to stop using the term master bedroom as well.
Right, exactly.
My favorite example was Apple. Apple had a new policy whereby they would replace all usages of the terms whitelist and blacklist in their code.
That. Yeah, it was actually, I think it was Google that came up with these originally. Wasn't it Google that said they weren't going to be all these terms?
Might well have been, yeah. But the origin of blacklist, the blacklist was in England, when they used to have hanging in England decades ago. When a judge pronounced the death sentence, he would put a bit of black cloth on his head, and he would give someone the death sentence. And when you were given the death sentence, you would go on the blacklist. So the blacklist was kind of the English version of death row. That's where the term comes from. It has absolutely nothing to do with race. It's the color of the cloth that the judge used to put on his head.
And a whiteboard was, well, actually, originally there was a blackboard, which was green, by the way, but the original ones I think were black because white has a contrast on them. I mean, I think these people, what they do is they trivialize and minimize the fact that there is actual racism out there. There is actual bigotry. And when you're trying to make something as innocuous as something like, a master slave or a whiteboard, that's trivializing true racism. That's trivializing the people that are hateful and bigoted, because they do exist. Absolutely, they do exist.
when you call absolutely everything racist, the
Nothing is
people
then.
who benefit from that are the actual racists,
Right. Yeah.
because then you're just giving them cover.
Yeah, it means nothing at that point. If everything is just something, it
Mm.
has no value. It means very little. But anyway, so back
Yeah,
to Sherlock. So he was the
yeah.
president of a, and so what happened to him and the
He
presidency?
was, I believe, his title was executive director. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're right. He was suspended for 30 days without pay because he said the forbidden word. I mean, it's the irony of that is he was using the word in order to criticize religion. He must
Yeah,
be
right.
he must be the first leader of an atheist group to be disciplined for criticizing religion, and specifically criticize like disciplined for using the forbidden word. I mean, I think
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, look,
it's
I'm not a big fan. I have criticized people. I don't think people should go around talking about Sky Daddy and things of that nature. But there are some beliefs that are retarded. Okay, they're just straight up stupid. And I'm not saying religion is. I'm not saying Christianity is. And no, in no way, shape, or form am I doing that. But there are people that use those types of terminologies, and then when they do, I was asking them what makes it retarded. Because if I say flat Earth is retarded, I think flat Earth is retarded. Somebody says, "Hey, Steve, why is flat Earth retarded?" Let me tell you why flat Earth is retarded. Right? I'm happy to do so.
yeah.
So I don't. That's just weird that somebody would go off on that, right?
It reminded me of because what they said in their statement was, we accept that Michael Sherlock used this word as a synonym for held back or slowed down, just like you would say, the speed of light is retarded when it passes through a substance
Right,
of
from a
a
medium.
different refractive
Sure.
index or whatever it happens to be. Um, they said even if you use it in that context, then saying these magic syllables is
Yeah.
bad and you will be disciplined. It was exactly like that scene from Life of Brian when the guy says Jehovah, and John Cleese says, "No, you're only making it worse." And he says, "Well, how could it be worse? Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah." Like it's literally like that. They're exactly saying it's just using these magic syllables. If you use the magic syllables, you're going to be disciplined. And the people who came up with this rule are the people who are controlling an international alliance of atheist organizations. And the reason why that came about was previously they would have been accountable to their members. So at least when I was there, we had to go to an AGM every year and account for what you were doing in the last year. You would be on a conference call with literally 3 dozen of the most experienced atheist activist campaigning groups from around the world who will be asking you questions about what you've done in the last year, what do you intend to do next year. You would get lots of disagreements around your plans, but the way they changed things to make it top down, they brought back this Madeline Murray O'Hare, and they just made themselves the new Murray O'Hare family. They were going to rule the organization. Once they did that, they became unaccountable to anyone. And then any bullshit that they came up with off the top of their head
Was law.
became policy.
Yeah.
So previously, when you're accountable to the 3 dozen most experienced atheist activists from 3 dozen countries around the world, you would never get away with bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Someone would immediately say, "You've just created a woke blasphemy law. How can we campaign against blasphemy laws in our country when you're creating new blasphemy laws at AAI?"
Absolutely.
But they had no one who was supervising them. And you can see it in the correspondence that they submitted to the United Nations. So again, you're going to think this is made up, but I promise you this is not made up. The first thing that they did was they wrote to the Secretary General of the United Nations and they demanded that every country in the world made a declaration supporting the right to be secular. Now, firstly, the idea that you write a one-page letter to the Secretary General and then every country in the world is going to make your preferred declaration. I mean, it's just so puerile and sophomoric.
That's wishful thinking.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't
But
work that way.
the other thing is, you already have the right to be secular. It like that is already in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights
Mm-hmm.
from like 50 years ago. So, what the Secretary General of the United Nations thought when the only atheist group in the world that has special consultative status at the United Nations is sending him a letter demanding a right that they've had for 50 years already.
Yeah, it
I
seems
mean,
odd.
it's fucking humiliating.
And
It is.
who penned the letter?
Howard Berman and Bill Flavelle.
Okay, and they were on the original. Were they on the original board?
They were so Bill Flavelle is currently, I believe, the vice president or secretary, because their president just resigned recently, and then their vice president resigned. So it's hard to know who their current president is. But Bill Flavelle is an old friend of John Richards. They go back a long way in Atheist UK.
That explains a lot. Hereticals for $2. Australian says, "What happened to Michael Sherlock was disgusting." I agree with you, Chris. I think that look, do I think that a position of power where somebody has a higher position, do they have to be a little bit more mindful of their speak sometimes? Sure, that kind of goes without saying. But I mean, what he did should have just been like, whatever. I mean, it's just. Look, I mean, if you're going to take umbrage and offense to every little fucking thing that somebody does, especially when there's no offense given, you're just looking for things at that point. You're just going out of your way just to put some kind of woke mandate that most people are just not going to abide by. And I sure the hell don't. And of course, I've been canceled many times, and Chris has been canceled many times because we don't abide by that. I'm not a woke person. I'm anti-PC. I think that the woke community has thoroughly destroyed any good that some of these atheist organizations may have had at the beginning, but we already went through Atheism Plus, and holy shit, did that fuck up atheism.
Yeah.
Remember the whole elevator gate with the whole Rebecca
Yes,
Watson?
I do. Yeah. That was in Dublin, here in Ireland.
Yeah, and it was in 2011, right? Dublin.
That's right.
In Dublin. And so, yeah, you were in the mix of all that in your lands, because, that was actually, sort of the downfall.
I think that was 2011, if I'm
it was 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
So Richard Dawkins was speaking at an Atheist Ireland event in Dublin, and was it Rebecca Watson was there, and the whole thing kicked off.
Yep. And then after we'll get into it in a second. Let me read the super chat. Kawasa 5001 says, finally got to catch a show live. Kawasa catch a few shows live. Well, usually on the non sequitur show. I was debating whether I was going to put this on non sequitur or not. I don't think the subject's yet something that I'd put on non sec. Well, maybe after we get more input on it. But to me, it's just like there's so much fuckery with AAI. I don't even know what the hell even to do on the non sequitur show about it. And he says it's dang hard to super chat shit while commuting to work. And then Heretical says for another 5. Australian, Sherlock took on American atheist wokeivist, which are a religious group in of themselves. These people are why atheists struggle. And dude, you are spot the fuck on there. I absolutely 100% agree with you. American Atheist is a shit organization. They are a bunch of woke. They are inconsistent. They're philosophically naive. I've even had Pam Whistle on, who was the editor-in-chief of American Atheist, who was a really nice woman. But she told me straight out that American Atheist is not a philosophical organization. They're not there to promote good philosophy. They're there to convert people for political power. That's it. They want you to give them money. That's it. They don't care shit if they put out correct information or not. And I got issues with that. I've got severe issues with atheists who are going to say, hey, look, we don't want any religious bullshit. We don't want the theists lying to people about God, but we're willing to lie to atheists in order to get more political power and more money for our organization. You're no better than they are. No better than they are.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question, Steve. So I'm not that familiar with American politics, but my very good friend on the Free Thought Profit podcast, Seamus, has a criticism of American atheists in that they refuse to go on Fox News, and Seamus's view towards people like, is it Nick Fish is the head of that organization?
I don't remember.
Look, if there's one forum in which you can find people who disagree with you, who you would like to convince, it's going on Fox News. That's what Silverman always used to do. I mean, if you believe you've got good arguments that are prepared to convince people, what what is the possible benefit of refusing to tell the people who most need to hear your arguments what they are?
Yeah, when I was how many times I was on the free thought? A few times, right? I mean,
Yes,
I 4
a few
times I think we
times.
were.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. And that was fun. That was fun. I think one of them you weren't there. I think it was. I think,
That's right.
do you remember?
Yeah, we were drinking and swearing on some of those podcasts, which is something that I disagree with. But as far as I'm aware, it's not illegal.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. All right, so continuing on. Oh yeah, with the whole elevator gate. Yeah, so real quickly. So Rebecca Watson, for those who don't remember, in 2011, she was at the convention in Dublin with Richard Dawkins, and she was talking to somebody in an elevator, and the guy, basically just said, "Hey, you want to continue the conversation with coffee in my room?" It was innocuous. It wasn't like overbearing or anything, but she took it to be like a rape threat. I mean, she went so far beyond the pale. Oh, you don't know what it's like being a woman in an elevator being hit on, blah blah blah. And I'm like, look, I understand that people are put in situations, but we've all been in elevators with somebody where we're thinking, oh my god, this person could probably kill us. And I'm sorry, but somebody asking me for coffee is not to me a threat. But Dawkins did pen something called Dear Muslima. Remember that?
Dear Muslima, that's right.
And it was basically saying, oh yeah, the struggle you must have in comparison to Muslim and Arab women who have things like genital mutilation and things that are killed because of the fact that they don't believe there's a God or believe that God doesn't exist. The struggle is real, right? And I understand where Dawkins was coming from. Matter of fact, I actually got to defend Dawkins on it. I understood exactly what he was trying to point out. And even though there was a marginal, fallacy of relative privation, is called. Rebecca was so way out of line that I think his response was proportional to what.
Yeah, and the other thing is people forget about elevator gate. Dawkins wasn't even just responding to the initial Rebecca Watson comment. As you might recall, Steve, things got very, very heated on lots of messaging groups.
Oh my God! There's people. Oh shit! That was one of the biggest freaking scandals of all time.
Exactly. So in the Dear Muslima letter, Dawkins was kind of responding to the whole hoo-ha that had kicked off to say, look, there's more important things going on in the world.
Right.
Yeah, so sometimes his intervention gets misrepresented too. But anyway,
well, he's a bit of a grenade thrower. I mean, come on, he's a firebrand.
Well, he has said. What's the last thing he got himself in trouble
for the trans
the Rachel Dolezal thing?
Yeah.
I have to say,
that was true. Yeah, that was true. Yeah,
I don't have any problem with that Dolezal thing. If people want to say they identify as a different race and live their life like that,
I couldn't care either. I think Richard Dawkins was just making a point on that. That's it. That's all he's been doing, is trying to make people think on it.
It was a point about evolutionary biology made by an evolutionary biologist, as I understood his tweet.
Right, and look, I don't think he was that far off. I mean, again, if you have a psychological thing where you identify as a certain thing, then I do not see any difference as far as biological sex as to race. If I identify racially as something else, that is a psychological real phenomenon, and I don't know why it'd be minimized. And I think that was the point that he was trying to make, that she might actually be psychologically through biological.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and
totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's just and for him to get vilified because again, he's not in the woke crowd. He's not in the cool kids club. And so
lots of people took it as an attack on trans people, and I took it as a defense of Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, it wasn't at all an attack on, but again, what happens in the woke crowd, if you don't agree with them, they're going to throw out things like, oh, you're transphobic, oh, you're a rape apologist, or you're a homophobic, you're a bigot, when again, none of those stigmatized words have any relationship to most of the people I run into. You know what I see? The people that are homophobic, the people that are bigots, the people that are racist, most of them are very proud of it. Now, I'm not saying they're not closeted. I'm not saying there's not people out there that have they don't overtly say things that are bigoted. They don't overtly say things that are homophobic. I agree, those people do exist, but on the average, most people that are homophobic are in your face about it. Most people that are racist are in your face about it. I'm again, not all of them, But the vast majority, yes, I believe, are absolutely willing to tell you that they have, these bizarre beliefs that one race is, inferior to another, or, one sexuality is inferior to another, and they're proud of it, right? So
Sure.
to call people these things when they're not is harming people, because it takes away from those actual people that do hold those freaking values. I wouldn't even call them values. I mean, they're not valuable, so I don't know what to call them. Racist beliefs or homophobic beliefs. It takes away from those people that are racist and bigoted that we need to be fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Richard Dawkins was pointing out. And again,
that's exactly how I read it too.
Yeah, it's minor fallacy of relative privation to some degree, but at the same token, he's absolutely right. There are much bigger fucking things to worry about. And I'm sorry, but the woke crowd has not learned that lesson yet. They just have not.
Yes. Well, here's another fallacy or non sequitur from our Twitter exchange, Steve. When you raise exactly these issues that we've been discussing with John Richards, inevitably, like clockwork, the response that you'll get is, well, you've made all these allegations of corruption and unethical behavior, but we're doing such good work for charity, and we're helping all these atheists around the world.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, wait. It's like Richards, you're actually literally admitting that you're allowed to do dishonest shit as long as the ends justify the means. If that's not Machiavellian, what is?
Apart from anything else,
sounds like religion.
That's exactly what every Catholic bishop ever has said when a priest is accused of wrongdoing.
Right?
But he does
it's
a
still
lot
a good
of
organization.
Work for charity.
Yeah. You know what? Hey, it doesn't matter that the Catholic Church had hundreds of, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of pedophiles that they moved around. It doesn't matter. They do good work. That's not an argument.
Here's a tough question, Steve, and I'm not being facetious. I genuinely don't know the answer to this myself. So AAI's campaign that they talk about this kind of charitable thing where they help atheists around the world. I've paid a bunch of money into those campaigns. A lot of them are very deserving causes. I have no problem with that at all. But when we had a campaign against blasphemy laws in Ireland, we made a point of highlighting all victims of blasphemy laws. So some of them are atheists for sure, but I mean, one of the most prominent cases was Asia Bibi, who's a Christian lady in Pakistan who was sentenced to death for blasphemy in Pakistan. So we had a campaign around the Asia Bibi case. So where Atheist Alliance International, if you go to their website, they'll talk about helping atheists in danger. Just the idea of only helping the atheists in danger. I mean, if, for example, blasphemy laws cause lots of suffering to lots of people in lots of countries, is the correct response to that to say, well, I'm going to pick out the victims that share my beliefs about the creator of the universe and only help them? Something about that doesn't sound right to me. I mean, as I say, I don't mean that to diminish the very worthwhile campaigns that they do, and I've contributed to a bunch of them. But just as a written policy to say, I'm going to just help the atheist. I mean, does that mean if you were walking along death row in Pakistan, you would walk past Asia Bibi and look for an atheist victim of the blasphemy law?
I mean, why would it matter if it's just atheists? I mean, people are going to be dying for these archaic, abysmal laws. I don't care if they're Mormon, Jew, Catholic, Baptist, atheist. They're dying because people are having these laws that are, to me, completely immoral. Absolutely immoral. Blasphemy laws, I agree, should not exist. Now, I'm not a big fan of memes, right? I'm not a big fan of like tropes and these catchy phrases. Because you know me, I'm an agnostic, so I don't like sit there and say there's no God or whatever. But you know how they say that blasphemy is a victimless crime.
Yeah,
I think that's pithy. It is pithy. But here's my thing: if blasphemy is an actual crime, then you need to be able to have the person that is the victim, in court in order to to confront your accuser, right? So if God's not going to go on the stand, you cannot have blasphemy laws.
That's a legal principle, isn't it? You have to have
Yes.
standing to take a case. You have to show that you're impacted by
Yes, you have to be able to confront
by
your
the act
accuser.
you're complaining
Yes.
about.
So whether blasphemy is a victimless crime or not, let's find out. Hey, if God can come down and go on the stand, you can't be interpreting fucking what you think is what is written in a Bible or something like that. I'm sorry, no, you have the right to face your accuser. So if God wants to say that I'm blaspheming, okay, get on the stand, God. Let's talk about it.
That makes perfect sense to me. I should point out, as an Irish person, Steve. I not point out. I should apologise. There's a line in the Irish Constitution that says, "Public worship is due unto Almighty God." And if you think about that, that's not given any rights to any people in Ireland. That's given the right to God to be worshipped by people in Ireland.
Yeah.
So, as lots of people have pointed out, God has yet to turn up in our Supreme Court to seek to vindicate that right. I don't know how anyone would try and reflect that in the laws of the land. Let me propose a very quick thought experiment. So, if you pick every year, there's some fucking shitstorm somewhere in the world. So, a couple of years ago, it was Syria. And a couple of years hence, there will be some other shitstorm somewhere where some awful disaster results in lots and lots of people suffering hardship. If you pick any of the major religions of the world, let's say the Catholic Church said, we're going to go into this particular disaster area and we're going to pick out the Catholics and we're going to help the Catholics while passing over everyone else. I think most people in the world would condemn that idea. I think Atheist Alliance International would be among the first to condemn the Catholic Church if they did that. And if you're going to condemn a church for something like that, why is it okay for an atheist organization to say, we're going to go around the world and look at all the people suffering from these blasphemy laws, but we're only going to help the atheists who are suffering?
That's bullshit.
That doesn't seem right to me.
No, it's not. First of all, that's not even humanitarian. That would violate secular humanism. Yeah, secular humanist. Exactly. That would be antithetical to a secular humanist. And so, when I see these atheist organizations and they only want to benefit atheists, I'm getting concerned because, first of all, I mean, I've talked to Michael Sherlock on this particular issue, and he's not a fan of the way I use atheism. He acknowledges that atheism is, in fact, the belief that God does not exist in philosophy as normative. He absolutely agrees with that, but that's not how he uses it, and he doesn't think it's a big deal. Okay, that's fine. But here I am, like, I'm not an atheist because I don't believe I don't hold the belief there isn't a God. But under his usage, I would be an atheist. So how would he treat that if I needed help? He'd be like, well, Steve, you don't believe there's a God, but you don't identify as an atheist because you use more precise terminology. Therefore, we can't help you. That'd be like an interesting test.
Exactly. Actually, now that you say it, I've never thought of it that way before, Steve. But in the God delusion, what does Dawkins say? He's like 6.5 out of 7 or something? I
think it's higher, like 6.9 or something, isn't he?
Yeah, whatever. But he's not 7?
No.
So does that mean Atheist Alliance International won't be able to help Richard Dawkins?
Well, I did a blog on his scale because the scale is so poorly written. And any philosopher will tell you that Dawkins may be a brilliant biologist, and I think that he probably, is probably one of the best, modern biologists. He knows biology, of course. But philosophy-wise, they say he really is out of his depths. And again, I'm not a professional philosopher, but when I've read about philosophy, I would have to concur with them 1,000%. And so, look, people confuse all these terms like surety and certainty and all these other things when all it is look, are you convinced that there's no God? If you're convinced there's God, I call that an atheist. And if you're not convinced there are no gods, there's some other thing. Could be a agnostic, theological cognitivist, or whatever. But for me, like I said, since I used more academic usages and terminology, so to me, an atheist is somebody who holds the belief there is no God or claims there is no God, which is strictly standard in philosophy. That's like not even something to be argued. Even though all the time atheists go, that's not true. That's not it. That's not how it is in philosophy. Okay, well, really? You're going to have to cite me some sources on that because no source agrees with them. Not one. But they tell me that's just wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, you're just saying it by fiat at this point. But, you know, again, they would have to say, well, you know, Steve, do you identify as an atheist? Well, no, then we can't help you. But I don't believe there's any gods. So their usage of terms is bizarre. Again, I understand whether using Atheism Alliance International rather than like agnostic, because again, they're trying to normalize the word atheist. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that they only help people that are atheist. I mean, again, because that would make no sense. Oh wait, we got some more super chats. How's your drink, by the way? Is that good?
It's really good. So the whiskey industry in Ireland is enjoying a renaissance at the moment, Steve.
Nice.
We have lots of new distilleries opening all the time. So I just have to try them all. It'd be rude not to.
Absolutely, dude. I'm a huge fan of single blended Scotch whiskey.
Well,
single malt. Sorry, single malt Scotch whiskey is the bomb.
Well, I think we've agreed with about almost everything so far, Steve. But
you like double? You like double? You like blended?
I'm going to have to draw the line at Scotch. Scotch is unfit for human consumption. I'm going to send you some Irish whiskey, Steve.
I like Irish whiskey. No, dude, I love coffee, Irish whiskey, and Bailey's Irish cream.
There you go. My wife drinks a lot of Bailey's.
So we are on the same page now again?
There we go. Good. We're all in agreement.
Good. All right. Chris says, for 5 more Australian, most important issue in atheism is the feeling of woke Americans. No one has it harder than oppressed Americans struggling in their first world prison. See, you get it, Chris. The struggle is real, man. You don't even know, man. You don't even know. The struggle is so real, man.
As a non-American, I get CNN. I don't get Fox or any other American channels, but I'm familiar with the experience of watching talking heads, which generally consists of, I mean, it is not unheard of that I would see a black guy with a Harvard Law degree who lives in Manhattan talking on CNN about how awful it is to be a black guy in America. And from a global perspective, I mean, that's not just the 1%. That's like 1% of 1% of 1% of humanity.
I've been
someone with a Harvard Law degree who lives in Manhattan.
Look, I have been all over the world, and I've seen third world countries, and I've seen shitholes. And I will tell you, no offense to Australians, I love Australia. I do. I had a great time in Australia. It's a great country. But I got to tell you, America is my favorite country. I would not want to live in any other country unless, maybe for like a vacation or something like that. There are so many democratic free countries, but you think it's bad here in America? I tell you what, go to the United Arab Emirates and tell me about, how much you like it over there. Because I guarantee it, you go to Dubai, Bahrain, Jabal Ali, any of those countries, you're not going to have fun. Saudi Arabia, nope.
I've had to travel a lot for work, Steve. If you ask me which countries I would like to relocate to from Ireland, there's Canada and America at the top, and everything else is a long
Canada
way
would be
behind.
fine. The people just don't know how to say about right, but I mean, and they apologize way too much. But Canada would be cool. And Ireland, I'm Irish, so that's a given. My last name is McClay. How much more Irish do you get? I would be thrilled to go to Ireland, and I love the way women speak Gaelic. Oh my God, it just melts my heart. It's just I can't understand it, but
I would have guessed Scottish, but I'm delighted to hear that. I do know a bunch of McRaes in Ireland too.
Yeah, I'm Scots Irish, so it's blended.
You're double Gaelic then.
Yes,
congratulations,
yes.
Well done. You're more Irish than me.
If you look up under the McRae clan, it is actually Scots Irish. It has a blending.
There you go.
It comes from the. It's spelled. The original clan was spelled with 2 C's, I think. But my sister actually went on a field trip and got to kiss the Blarney Stone. Yep.
That's fucking scary.
Yeah, I think you have to go upside down and they hold you down.
Yeah,
and weird. Yeah,
it's like on the essentially you have to get to the top of a very high castle then you have to lie on your back, then someone holds your feet and lowers you down, and you have to get into some contorted position to find it. I did that. It scared the fucking shit out of me.
And you got to put your lips where a billion other lips have been.
Indeed, that's the scariest part.
Kind of like my ex-girlfriend. Okay, just guys, I'm kidding. My ex-girlfriend was great. She lives down here still. All right, April Van Ryan, $5 says, Canadian, half your audience wanted to hear this. The other half is waiting for you to hate you for something. The other half is waiting for you to hate you, Steve. Good job, Steve. Yeah, no, I look at that. I'll take what I can get, right? Haters still watch, right? They still count as views. Although my haters haven't been around much on this particular channel. I do a lot of philosophy in this channel, obviously, and this kind of stuff, so it doesn't get a lot of views, and that's fine. But I got to tell you, Non Sequitur has been getting quite a bit of views lately. People have been talking about it. I think the shows have been amazing on Non Sequitur. I've had some really great conversations and really great guests. I mean, even having just Reds on, I should say that like just Reds. I had Reds on with MC Toon, and we had a great time. I'm doing it in a much more podcast style. I don't know if I'm going to keep that up. This is kind of like a podcast style as well, but I mean, that's what John does. I mean, you do podcasts, so this is your kind of, love that sound. And you got Seamus,
a nice little stereotype to live up to, Steve.
Yeah. So yeah, the free thought prophet is out there. Yes, great show, great stream. He has probably a lot to add to this too. I should have invited him on, but I didn't think about it. My bad. You should have told him.
Next time around, we should get Seamus on board.
Yes,
for sure.
I like that. Yes, I have a lot of fun on his podcast. Great host. Highly recommend if you want to check out a podcast on this kind of stuff. Go check out the Free Thought Prophet podcast. That's the entire title, isn't it?
It's Seamus's gig. That's right. I'm just hanging off his coattails.
Yeah, that's where we all kind of let's go on every people's coattails, right? But all right, so I want to keep this down an hour. I mean, we're gonna have a part 2 on this, I think, because seriously, there's so much to deal with, and maybe after I get through some of this documentation you sent me, because dude, you sent me a shit ton. It's hard to get through.
I apologize for that. Well, let me give a quick trailer for part 2.
Yeah, do that.
Steve. So this idea that John Richards and his fellow travelers at AAI have come up with of the atheist support network of trying to support atheists around the world. I mean, firstly, if you look at their financials, they spend a couple of tens of thousands every year. But if you read what they promise in that atheist support network, they talk about things like providing an emergency relocation service for atheists in trouble. And what they're promising is way, way above what the United Nations or Amnesty or International Rescue would promise. And they're just puffing their chests out, I think. The danger of that is, there are actually atheists around the world who have good reason to fear that they might be in danger. Mm-hmm. And if you give them the idea that all they have to do is send an email and it's going to be Thunderbirds are go and someone's going to relocate them.
It's not going to work that way.
That's not a good idea.
Nope.
But the other thing is when you promise that and you try and create this network of people, you've no way of verifying. I mean, basically, Atheist Alliance International at this point is half a dozen people with laptops, and they have no way of verifying who it is that they're supporting. And one story that hasn't really come out yet is that they appointed someone as a director of Atheist Alliance International, whose profile is up on LinkedIn still, claiming to be a director of Atheist Alliance International. They appointed him to that position. They invited atheists in trouble in countries where it's dangerous to be an atheist. They invited those people to get in touch with this director to seek help. And it turned out this guy was an Islamist himself.
Oh, God.
Who was doing that in order to essentially hunt apostates.
Right. No, that's fucking scary, dude.
That is fucking insane. It is deeply insane. And people who have a couple of tens of thousands of dollars a year, tens of thousands of dollars a year to spend, should not be promising emergency relocation to atheists in danger.
We all know that would never be feasible.
Mental.
Yeah, that would never be. That's his bullshit. And it's scary because you're literally playing with people's lives. Literally.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah, you're for the sake of beating your chest and puffing yourself up and writing a fancy annual report where you advertise these services and make yourself feel good. You're essentially telling people for whom this shit is fucking real, who might actually be in danger. You're promising them services that you have no way to deliver.
What's funny is I can see John Richards doing something like that because again, he doesn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
He is so incompetent that I think he would, in order to boast his own ego, do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that. I mean, the guy, I've never really ran across anybody who has been a part of an organization like that has just been so duplicitous. And granted, I think Arn. Raw, I don't think he's outward lying to people because I think he just doesn't understand the material, so I can't put him under duplicitous. I do think Matt Dillahunty's duplicitous. I know he knows material, or at least strongly believe that he knows the material because I've listened to him. He gets things right when he wants to, but then he just bullshits people most of the time on the things. But John's just dumb, and I think he hides his stupidity by being dishonest with people because when you try to ask somebody simple questions and they just obfuscate, that should be a warning sign. And I saw you asking him like, hey John, were you elected to the board? And he's like, well, I don't remember being to this, and I mean I did go to this, but it's just like, no. Was there an actual election? I still don't know. Was there?
And no, there wasn't. You can see the minutes. He was never elected by anyone.
But he claims he was.
Yeah, but he's lying.
Oh, wait! I'm shocked. Can you hear I can't get over this. John Richards is lying? No,
sorry. Maybe I should retract that, Steve. He can't be lying because the guy who accused him of lying was drinking and swearing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Irish guy that was drinking. You can't, yeah, that's the fallacy of the Irish drinking guy.
Who could have anticipated an Irish guy drinking and swearing?
Hey, look, man, back in the day, I had a high constitution, man. I was like, yes, Irish people can definitely drink. And we curse because they're in the Navy. So fuck, I had double. When I was drinking back in the military, oh my God, it was like par for the course. I mean, there was just something that you did and you functioned.
Is it not supposed to be rum in the Navy, Steve?
No, well, yeah, 200 years ago. But no, it was Jack Daniels was my choice.
There you go.
Yeah, Jack Daniels was my choice. But it is 5:00. We are going to wrap it up. I know we didn't get very far, and I apologize. But the same token,
you've been very generous with your time on a holiday. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Say, for the sake of correctness, it is now 5th of July in this part of the world, Steve.
Yes, you are 8 hours ahead. So it is 1 o'clock for you right now.
Yes, but listen, I very much appreciate your time, man, and you should go and get some beers and enjoy the fireworks.
I'm literally going to get some thing to eat real quick. I'm going to put some pants on. I'm going to head down to the store because in these first world countries, I have to walk uphill both ways a quarter mile to the store to get beer. The struggle's real.
I'm clutching my pearls.
I could do DoorDash, but that takes 30 minutes, and the struggle's real. Hey, look, I'll never bitch about living in America. I swear to God. I mean, again, people don't know how well they have it until they see firsthand how awful things are in other places. And I got to tell you, John, I want to thank you sincerely for keeping on this AAI. I know you tagged me in all this stuff. I'm on the blind carbon copy for all the email stuff.
Yep.
And I see all the things that you're talking with the ex-board members and all these other people and how how much they obfuscate. And but you and I, whether we agree on the uses of atheism or anything that is irrelevant, you and I both agree that these blasphemy laws are archaic, that people being put to death because they don't have the same religious beliefs as people is unconscionably unethical. I believe that religions that promote that are unethical religions, and I will stand behind you and any other atheist that denounces those types of religions in totality. Yeah, so I mean we're all on the same page on that. Again, I'm not condemning all religions, but if they're a religion that says, look, if you're gay, you deserve to die, or if you're an atheist who believes there are no gods or just doesn't accept the God of the Yahweh or Jehovah or Islam, Then yeah, I am definitely against those religions. I'm sorry. I would be an anti-theist to those types of very specific religions that are advocating for the death of somebody merely because of who they love or what they believe. I can never support a religion like that. So.
Here.
All right, well, let's leave it at that. Everybody else, go celebrate your holiday tonight. It is the American holiday, 4th of July.
Have fun, man. Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day. Go watch those fireworks and have some beer. And with that, guys, I will be outside here in a few minutes. I'm just going to go get some beer. Yeah. Peace.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you, John. Good night.